It was supposed to be one of those ordinary Friday nights, the kind where you finish a long week at work, grab a beer with your buddies, and maybe surprise your girlfriend on her girls' night out. I wasn't planning on going to the Rusty Anchor, the downtown bar where she and her coworkers usually hung out after work, but when I finished my shift early at the auto shop, I figured, why not? I'd show up, give her a hug, maybe dance a little, and head home together. I remember parking across the street, the crisp Seattle air biting through my jacket as neon lights flickered over puddles left by the afternoon rain. That's when I saw her. Sarah, my girlfriend of 3 years. She was standing near the entrance under the amber glow of a street lamp, laughing. Not the polite kind of laugh she gave my friends, but the full, unguarded one I used to love waking up to. Her hand was resting on a guy's chest. Tall, suit jacket, that confident I own the room kind of posture. He leaned down, whispered something, and she tilted her head up, smiling like she was falling in love for the first time. Then she kissed him. Slow, familiar, like she'd done it before. My mind didn't process it immediately. It was like my body froze and my brain refused to catch up. I didn't rage. I didn't storm over or scream. I just felt something inside me break, quietly, like glass under pressure. My hands were shaking, but my instinct didn't reach for confrontation. It reached for my phone. One click, flash off, perfect angle. I took the photo, the image of her betrayal, frozen forever, her hand on his chest, their faces inches apart. That single frame captured everything words could never explain. I didn't text her, didn't call. I just turned around, walked back to my car, and sat in silence for what felt like hours. The radio hummed softly in the background, some love song that suddenly sounded like mockery. When she texted me 30 minutes later, "Hey babe, we're just wrapping up, miss you," I just stared at the screen, emotionless. I wanted to reply something like, "How is he?" or "You missed me while kissing someone else?" But instead, I locked my phone and started the engine. My hands were steady again. For the first time that night, I felt control. The anger wasn't gone. It was focused, sharp. Revenge, I realized, didn't have to be loud. It could be quiet, strategic, devastating. I went home, pulled up her social media, and started scrolling. Same coworker. His name was Jason. He'd liked nearly every photo she'd posted for months. Their work trip selfies, late-night dinners, conference photos, it was all there. The dots connected effortlessly. The betrayal wasn't a one-time slip, it was an ongoing story written behind my back. I saved every picture, every flirty comment, every digital breadcrumb. Then I found something that made my jaw tighten, an upcoming weekend trip. She'd told me it was a team-building retreat. Jason was tagged in the event post. My next move was clear. I wasn't going to confront her that night. I wasn't going to beg for the truth she'd already buried. I was going to end it in a way she'd never forget. The kind of ending that wouldn't involve yelling or throwing things, but would make her regret ever underestimating my silence. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest scream.
I slept like someone who had finally put a heavy, rusted lock on a door that had been squealing for months. When I woke up the next morning, the cold clarity of what I had to do felt as clean as the bite of coffee on my tongue. There was no point in confronting Sarah with sloppy theatrics, no satisfaction in a messy scene that would let her claim victimhood with crocodile tears. If she'd been capable of hiding this for months, she deserved a revelation that was equally methodical, public enough to sting, private enough to deny her the melodrama of being wronged. First, I iced the hurt. I didn't stalk her social media, I cataloged it. I created a private album on my phone with every tiny betrayal I could find. The photos where Jason's laugh tucked too close to her jawline. The check-ins at late-night diners that happened when she'd told me she was on overtime. The comments that read like inside jokes I was never invited to. I time-stamped everything. Then I set the camera photo from the bar as the anchor, the undeniable proof that would do the talking I refused to waste my breath on. But I didn't want to burn bridges for me. I wanted a clean severance that left her with nothing she could use to manipulate the narrative. So I booked a weekend trip. Not an extravagant getaway, just a small downtown hotel with a refundable reservation made under a name she wouldn't expect, and I scheduled it for the same weekend as her team retreat. I knew how she loved being seen as the office sweetheart, the girl who balanced ambition and sweetness like a vintage photograph, and I knew their retreat would be something she'd sprinkle across social feeds. My little trip would be timed to collide with whatever she intended to post. Next up, logistics and timing. Revenge with a timetable is half the art. Impulsive revenge is just catharsis for the wrong person. I arranged to be casually visible at places she frequented without looking like I was following her. Coffee shops 2 blocks away from her favorite brunch spot, a bookstore near the park where she walked on Sundays. I even went so far as to sign up for a charity 5K she'd volunteered at last year, purely so I could be in the same zip code without tripping alarm bells. The point wasn't to trap her in a dicey confrontation, it was to assemble the stage where the truth would appear inevitable. While I was mapping her predictable behaviors, I also mapped the people who mattered to her image. Her mother, her boss, a few mutual friends who always seemed to take her side. I didn't want to embarrass her in front of strangers who'd never seen past her filters. I wanted to crack the mirror she'd been polishing in front of the people whose opinions actually sculpted her sense of self. That meant gathering evidence that would survive scrutiny. The bar photo, screenshots of messages where Jason's tone slid past friendly, the pattern of tagged photos that implied intimacy. I printed the best shots on glossy paper, the kind that keeps color and details sharp, like a reminder you can hold, not just swipe past. I made copies and slipped them into envelopes addressed to 3 people. Her boss, with a short professional note that suggested she might have blurred the line between professional and personal on company time. Her mother, with a gentler tone, just the photos and a line that read, "Thought you should know," and a mutual friend who always defended her with an inoculating message that said nothing dramatic, just the truth, and the rest would fill itself. But the most exquisite part of the plan was not the delivery, it was the timing. I wanted her to think the universe was doing the unmasking, not me. So I created circumstances where the pieces would fall naturally. I RSVP'd to a company fundraiser where I suspected her team would be attending. I volunteered to help set up a silent auction at the country club where Jason's firm had recently held a client mixer. I made sure to be seen entering rooms, to drop casual mentions of "nice seeing Sarah at the city council fundraiser last month" to mutual acquaintances, planting tiny seeds that would grow without me appearing like a gardener. Meanwhile, I perfected my poker face. I texted her like nothing had happened, small, calculated messages. "Hope your presentation went well today. Don't forget to pick up the dry cleaning." Those messages were armor. They made me look like the oblivious boyfriend she'd always relied on, which would soften the blow and let the revelations pack more punch. I also prepared myself for the aftermath by writing a short, cold statement that I could read if things went public. 3 sentences that said exactly what needed to be said, nothing more. No begging, no pleading, no accusations that could be turned around on me. I practiced it in the mirror until my voice didn't tremble. The week before the planned reveal, I tested small things. I sent an anonymous tip to a local gossip blog that liked before and after office romances. Just a small mention of a rumored liaison between 2 coworkers at the Rusty Anchor. I didn't expect the blog to explode. I wanted it to float around like a ghost story, enough to make people curious, not outraged. Then I scheduled the envelopes for delivery. Her boss got the professional packet the morning after the company had a big client meeting. The friend received theirs that afternoon, and her mother's envelope arrived the same day her sister was coming into town. The reactions were as I'd planned. The boss called with careful, clipped concern, asking for context. The friend texted back with terse questions that were more puzzled than defensive, and her mother's voice on the phone cracked in a way that sounded like betrayal, not drama. Every tiny reaction confirmed my map was accurate. On the morning of the weekend she planned to be away, I posted nothing but a simple Instagram story of the city skyline with the caption, "Breather." I watched from a distance as her phone lit up, Her mother calling, frantic text from friends, and for a moment, a selfish satisfaction bloomed in me that felt less like triumph and more like justice catching up with a debt she had been avoiding. When she finally texted me, it was not the coy, carefree message from the night of the bar. It was a string of frantic sentences. "What is this? Who sent that? I let the message sit. I didn't reply. Instead, I posted the bar photo on my locked Instagram. Only followers could see, but I made sure her sister, her boss, and our mutual friends were among them. That single image, unaccompanied by explanation, let context do the work. People filled in the blanks. Her world shuddered in quiet, private ways that public spectacle never could. A few hours later, she called. Her voice was a mixture of pleading and fury, the two emotions that sound most alike when someone realizes they've lost control. I listened. I said nothing but 3 sentences, the prepared statement, and then I hung up. The silence that followed was not empty. It was deliberate, like the low note of a drum that tells everyone the performance is over. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw her mistakes back in her face. I let the truth stand there, framed and undeniable, and watched as the people who mattered to her rearranged themselves around it. In the end, the revenge wasn't about humiliation. It was about restoring a balance she had broken. She had chosen deception. I chose to be the person who ended the cycle, quietly, precisely, and with a dignity she'd squandered.
The fallout didn't explode. It unraveled, like a thread being pulled from the edge of a perfectly tailored dress, silent but unstoppable. In the days that followed, Sarah's world began to fracture piece by piece. I didn't have to do anything. I had already done enough. The photo from that night spread in the quietest, most brutal way, shared in private messages, whispered about at work, dissected by people who used to envy her perfect relationship. Jason's face in that picture didn't just mark her infidelity, it implicated him too. And in their workplace, rumors were currency. Within a week, he was called in by HR for an inquiry into professional boundaries, and she was conveniently asked to take some personal time. She tried calling me again, but her calls went unanswered. I muted her number, not blocked. It was more satisfying to watch her attempts pile up like unclaimed messages in a bottle. On the 5th day, she showed up at my apartment. I remembered the sound of her knocking, soft at first, then frantic. I didn't open the door. I watched through the peephole as she stood there in tears, holding the small box where I knew she'd packed my things, hoodie, toothbrush, the old Polaroid camera we'd used on our first trip. She looked smaller somehow, like the arrogance had leaked out of her. "Please, just talk to me," she said, voice trembling, and for a brief second, something inside me stirred. The memory of the girl who used to fall asleep on my chest talking about future plans. But memories weren't enough to rebuild trust. I let her cry. Then I walked away from the door, sat down, and turned the TV on loud enough to drown out her sobs. Eventually, her shadow disappeared from under the door. That night, she posted a story on Instagram, a blank, black screen with the caption, "You don't know what you've lost until it's gone." The irony made me smile. People messaged me privately, friends, coworkers, even her sister, saying things like, "You didn't deserve that man," and "She really messed up." I never badmouthed her. I didn't need to. Silence continued to do what shouting never could. It made her guilt echo louder. Meanwhile, Jason resigned quietly, and I heard from a mutual acquaintance that his girlfriend, yes, he had one too, dumped him in spectacular fashion after seeing the photo. Sarah's mother reached out to me with a kind of apologetic warmth only a parent could muster, telling me I had handled everything with grace. Grace wasn't the word I'd use. Calculated mercy, maybe. Because deep down, I knew if I had chosen to be cruel, I could have destroyed her far more publicly. But that wasn't the point anymore. My revenge had already taken root in a way that would haunt her longer than any viral scandal could. She'd have to live with the knowledge that I had proof, that she had been exposed by her own actions, and that I hadn't even given her the satisfaction of a dramatic confrontation. The quiet of my apartment grew on me.
I cleaned, rearranged, and started going to the gym again. Every routine I rebuilt felt like reclaiming territory she'd once occupied. There was still anger sometimes, a ghost emotion that lingered when a certain song came on or when I passed by the bar, but it no longer burned. It cooled into something sharper, more powerful: indifference. The ultimate revenge. She tried reaching out one last time through an email. It was long, remorseful, almost poetic in the way cheaters try to rewrite their own stories. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I made a mistake. I didn't know how empty I was until I lost you." The words meant nothing. People like her mistake regret for love. Regret isn't love. It's just the absence of validation. I deleted the email. No reply. No closure offered. A few months passed, and one night I ran into her at a mutual friend's birthday party. She looked startled to see me, and for the first time she was the one fumbling for composure. I nodded politely, as though she were an acquaintance I barely remembered. She tried to start small talk, asking about my work, my family, whether I had met anyone new. I smiled faintly and said, "Yeah, life's good." Then I excused myself and walked away. That moment, the look in her eyes when she realized she no longer had power over my emotions, was worth more than any dramatic revenge scene. As I left the party, I scrolled through my phone and deleted the photo album, the one with all the evidence. The revenge had done its job. Keeping it any longer would have meant I was still chained to her memory, and she didn't deserve space in my mind anymore. By the time I reached my car, the night air felt lighter. Maybe revenge isn't about hurting someone else. Maybe it's about reclaiming yourself from the damage they caused. I looked up at the skyline, the same city where I'd once caught her cheating outside that bar, and for the first time since that night, I wasn't angry. I was free.
Freedom is strange. You think it's a moment, the day you delete the photos, the day you stop checking your phone. But really, it's a slow uncoiling, a release that happens in layers. Months passed. I changed apartments, switched jobs, even bought a dog, a goofy golden retriever named Milo, who had no idea his presence was patching up the kind of loneliness humans leave behind. My new life was built on small, deliberate choices, the kind of calm that comes not from forgetting the storm, but from knowing you survived it. People say time heals everything. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal. It just dulls the edges enough for you to see the truth without bleeding from it. And the truth was this: I didn't miss Sarah. I missed the version of myself I used to be before her lies hollowed me out. But now, that version was back, stronger, smarter, and far more dangerous in the best way. It was around spring when fate decided to write its own epilogue. I was at a marketing conference in Portland, presenting a project for the firm I joined after leaving the auto shop. Ironically, the skills I'd learned plotting that silent revenge, the organization, the detail, the timing, made me a hell of a strategist. I'd gone from turning wrenches to running campaigns worth millions, and the irony wasn't lost on me. During the final day of the conference, as people milled about sipping cheap wine and networking, I heard a voice I hadn't expected to hear again. "Ethan?" It was her, Sarah. She looked older, not in a cruel way, but in the way guilt etches itself into people who never forgive themselves. The sparkle that used to draw everyone in was gone, replaced with something brittle, like she'd been living too long on apologies that never landed. She smiled weakly. "Wow, you look great. It's been, what, almost a year?" I nodded, polite. "Yeah, life's been good." She hesitated, then said softly, "I saw your campaign for Delta Tech. Impressive. You always had that focus. I'm really proud of you." It almost sounded sincere. Almost. She told me she'd left her old firm after things got complicated and was freelancing now. There was a ring on her finger, but not the same one Jason had worn. I didn't ask. Some ghosts are better left unspoken. Then she asked the question I knew was coming, the one that every cheater eventually circles back to like a moth to a flame. Do you ever think about us? I met her eyes and let the silence sit just long enough to sting. Sometimes, I said finally, mostly when I think about who I used to be. You were part of that chapter, but I'm not him anymore. I smiled, a real one, not bitter, not cold, just honest. She nodded, but her lips trembled like someone trying not to cry in public. I made a mistake. You didn't deserve what I did. I exhaled slowly. You're right, I didn't, but I'm glad it happened. She blinked, confused. Why? I shrugged. Because it taught me how to love the right way, starting with myself. She stood there for a moment, silent, trying to form words that would matter. None came. Eventually, she said, I hope you're happy. I smiled again, this time softer. I am. Then I turned and walked away. No cinematic ending, no slow-motion heartbreak, just closure, clean and quiet, like closing a book that no longer hurts to touch. Later that evening, as I sat in my hotel room, Milo asleep at my feet, I scrolled through old photos on my cloud backup. I found the one from that night outside the bar, the one that had started it all, the photo of her hand on Jason's chest, that perfect betrayal framed in the glow of a street lamp. I stared at it for a long moment, not in anger, but in reflection. Then I deleted it, permanently. Some people think revenge is about destroying the person who wronged you, but real revenge, the kind that leaves a mark, isn't about them at all. It's about becoming someone they can never hurt again. I had done that. Sarah would always remember me as the man who caught her, never screamed, never begged, just took a photo and let the world take care of the rest. She'd carry that memory longer than I ever carried the pain. And me? I had finally learned that peace is the most savage revenge of all. When I turned off the lights, the room was quiet, except for Milo's breathing and the hum of the city outside. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't see her face. Just the soft, satisfying darkness of a life reclaimed.